We're Rob and Nick Carter, we're a married couple. We started working together about 15 years ago, and Rob's from a photographic background. He was an advertising photographer, and I did a degree, a sculpture and painting degree, BA Honours at Goldsmiths College. So our work has always been a bit of a hybrid and a mix of medium, which you can see in this work, Postcards from Vegas, which takes vintage postcards and mixes them with two ready-mades, the vintage postcard and the neon signs from Las Vegas and New York.
For me, Rob and Nick Carter's work really speaks of a bygone age when you had this sort of amazing moment of getting a postcard, and it spoke of the place that that person had visited, which you probably had never been, and maybe even not seen images of it. We live in this very heavily digitized age where there's so much imagery, and now images are throwaway, and these postcards were very special and sort of sacred. So they've taken these postcards, which are very nostalgic and speak of these other eras and other places, and they've combined them with these very kitsch Las Vegas neon signs, which once lived a life in a motel or a strip joint or a casino or a cafe, and they brought them together. And they've taken something which could be quite jarring and made it incredibly mesmerizing. And they just walk this really fine line between something incredibly contemporary and something which is beautifully vintage. And that's why they sort of stick with you in your mind. And every time you look at them, you sort of get something else from them. And they're a real sort of gift. They're able to just transport you somewhere else.
I've always been fascinated by postcards. We both collected them as children, although my postcard collection was much better than Nicky's. She had postcard collection envy for quite some time. We had a collection of maybe 4,500 postcards, and always been fascinated by the high quality, mainly large format plate camera images of the 50s, 60s and 70s.
We did about 200 mock-ups mixing the photographic image and the neon, and it was actually really hard getting the right tension between the two elements so that there was a bit of a jarring, but so that you didn't give away the narrative to the viewer so they could make up their own narrative. So out of these 200 mock-ups we whittled it down to these pieces.
So from a technical, practical way of working, we chose the postcards after we'd selected our mock-ups, chose the postcards that we wanted to work with. We made a very high-end digital scan from which we outputted a 10x8 transparency from which we printed in our studio very large format photographs that you can see here. They are then dry mounted onto aluminium, and we coated them with a matte seal to try and get back to the original postcard look and feel.